We noted in the previous panel that Dvarim 6-7 is the textual basis for two mitzvot. One, a mitzvah to recite the Kriyat Shema twice each day. One, b'shach b'chal, sometime during the period that the average person prepares him or herself to retire for the night, and uvukumecha, a period in which people arise prior to engaging in their daytime activities. The other mitzvah is that of Talmud Torah, and this is based upon the words Vishinantam Levanecha, which normally translates as an obligation to teach one's children, and in order to do so, by implication, one must study to know what to then convey to the children. The quantification of this obligation for Limud Torah is based upon a command recorded in God's first communication with Yehoshua following the death of Moshe, in which Yehoshua is told, Lo Yamish Sefer HaTorah Hazeh Mipicha, loosely translated as the Torah shall not depart from your mouth, and that V'higita bo Yomam V'layla, that one should meditate upon these words, referring to the words of Torah both by day and by night, and for which in some respects there is a linkage between the mitzvah of Talmud Torah and that of Kriyat Shema. This linkage is noted by the Admor HaZaken, the Alter Rebbe, in his Hilchot Talmud Torah, a compendium of the various halachot regarding the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, in which he quantified the obligation of V'higita bo Yom V'layla at three broad levels. The ideal is that one should allocate whatever free time is available to him or her, both by day and by night, to delve into the study of Torah, ranging from the Torah text all the way through the 3,000 or so years of accumulated information that clarify the raw text of the Torah. In other words, literally, every spare minute that one has, one should ideally be involved with this mitzvah. This is definitely an involvement that very few can achieve, but for the rare few that do, Torah study at that level overrides the fulfillment of most mitzvot. For most people, however, there is the reality of work, in other words, providing for one's family, and therefore for a majority of the population, if one is not able to allocate sufficient time to be immersed in the study of Torah, both by day and by night, in the words of the Alter Rebbe, Shelo yuchal lilmod b'chol ha'et hakavua la b'yom v'chein b'layla, then one is able to fulfill one's obligation for V'higita bo Yom V'layla by allocating Perek Echad Bayom, a time allocation for Torah study by day, V'chein Perek Echad B'layla, a time allocation for Torah study at night. This is based upon the Gemara Menachot, Daf Tzadik Tet. The Alter Rebbe then goes on to inform us of a third option, and that is Ubshat Hadacha, in those exceptional circumstances, Shahatir da Gedola Yoter Midai, where the workload for providing the family with one's needs, and Ve'ein Lo Panai, one simply does not have the time even for Perek Echad to fulfill the commitments of even the shortest period of time allocated for Torah study, then the Alter Rebbe rules that Yuchel Latzeit Yedei Chovato, one can fulfill one's obligation for Limud Torah, Kriyat Shema Shacharit, V'arvit, with the recitation of the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema, either or both the morning or evening recitations, and thereby L'kayim MITZVAT V'higita bo Yom V'layla. One can fulfill the obligation and the requirement of meditating in the study of Torah both by day and night. This, of course, is a b'di'evad, less than ideal situation, but is nevertheless valid, because shehu shad hadacha, this would be a time of stress and pressure time-wise, and therefore there is no other option in meeting the obligations of Limud HaTorah by day and by night. A possible basis for this ruling might be the fact that the two mitzvot are sourced from the very same pasuk, the mitzvah of Limud HaTorah and the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema. Hence we see that the two mitzvot are linked. However, it should be noted that at their very core, these two mitzvot are polar opposites, as we shall demonstrate in the next panel. In the first of the footnotes that we shall be looking at, the footnote will be linked to the concept presented by the Rebbe in the Sikha, that while on the one hand the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is a 24-hour mitzvah, in reality most people do not have the time nor the energy for that type of an involvement, and hence the Rebbe noted that there were three broad commitment levels regarding the fulfillment of MITZVAT Talmud Torah. Footnote number 6 provides us with a rather comprehensive set of sources for the three categories, two from the Talmud Bavli, that is Masechet Menachot and Sanhedrin, another source from the Yalkut, a Midrashic source, also from the Rishonim, and the Halachic source will come from the Hilchot Talmud Torah from the Shulchan Aruch Harav, Hilchot Talmud Torah. Drawing from the Hilchot Talmud Torah, the footnote notes that although technically one can fulfill the mitzvah of Talmud Torah at the level of Perek Echad Shacharit or Perek Echad Arvit with the recitation of the Kriyat Shema, nevertheless, the Rebbe goes on to write, Harei kol zeh hu hab'diyeved shel mitzvat v'higita bo yom v'layla. This is not the ideal. This is the fulfillment of the mitzvah in situations when one must juggle two conflicting requirements. One, the study of Torah yom v'layla, and two, the obligation to provide the physical needs of food, clothing, and shelter for one's self and one's family. So that while in actuality the mitzvah of Talmud Torah is a single mitzvah extending for the entire 24-hour period of the day-night, the ideal, lechatchila, where possible, is that one should be involved with Torata umnato every spare moment of the day. This, however, is not realistic, especially in this day and age, and therefore we have the option of Perek Echad Shachrit or Perek Echad Arvit, or even the fulfillment of the mitzvah with the recitation of Kriyat Shema, while also discharging the obligation of Limud Torah is only a b'di'evet situation when one needs to prioritize the allocation of time and energy as best as one can.